Hello and welcome to Your Spare Time. This is Kerbal Enthusiast 11, which is a name I chose for various reasons. And my mouse is being really creepy, but today I am going to be experimenting with a project in which I have called Jool mission. This mission's purpose is basically just to send a probe, sort of looking like Sputnik, but anyways, to send a probe underneath the surface of Jool, because I know it significantly slows down as you get closer to the surface of the planet. I already have the mission, I already have the craft right here. It's called Jool Explorer. I got the name a little mixed up. Alright, so as you can see, there's the round ball at the top, and here's the main stage of the mission here. Then there is some fairing to keep it protected. There is a smaller thruster here, which is very efficient. I love this, I forgot what it's called. I think it's the Gemini lander engine. There's the mini fuel tank here, some RCS to keep it going. Disconnects has another stage here. And then here's the main part. If you look closely, you can see the communitrons over here sort of look as if they are the, let's see, I don't know how to describe it, the bottom part of Sputnik, but they're actually communication arrays that can send information back to Earth. Best case scenario, I can send information about the mission as it's going closer and closer to the surface of the planet, which doesn't really exist. As it goes down lower and lower. Over here, MechJeb is telling me what my statistics are as far as the Delta V. I've got approximately, if you add it all up, a little bit under 9,000 Delta V, which should be enough to get it out of Kerbin's sphere of influence and into an encounter with Jool, which is actually all I need here. So I am going to launch this mission right now. Yeah, I've been working on this project for a long period of time. The only thing to see is whether it will all work out or not. You can see it's moving back and forth just a tiny bit. Alright, 3, 2, 1, launch. So I have the, what's it called, the tweak scale mod, which lets me change the size of any part. The only bad effect that I can think of is, that the effects for the thrust don't make sense a majority of the time. Like there's this tiny engine with a huge flame, or a huge engine with a tiny flame. But for the most part, it's helpful because I can use MechJeb to see, like what ratio the fuel is, so that like it can be dispersed over a large amount of time as much as possible. And I find that like these two numbers over here, SLT is the one that like tells you how efficient you are in the atmosphere, and TWR over here is tells you how efficient you are in space or in a vacuum. So with these two numbers, like it'll tell me if I just want a thruster to be as efficient as it can in space, it can technically be 0.1, but if I'm trying to launch it from Kerbin, or I want a good ratio of trying to use the fuel, then I try to keep it right around 1. And then as the craft gets lighter, due to burning the fuel, it'll actually become more and more efficient as it's burning. As you can see, these numbers are all climbing. Partially that is because there's not as much barometric pressure, thus not as much atmosphere to make the engine have to work harder. But, yeah, for the most part, that's how it works. We are about 5,000 meters away from the base, and I've actually found if you get in a low Kerbin orbit, you can actually see the entire base from space, which is pretty funny. Yeah, that's not realistic at all, though. I know if you were to try to do that in real life, it would be impossible. I don't think you can see the, what's it called? Don't think you can see the Great Wall of China from space, so it doesn't make sense. Yeah, the winglets on the side, I usually attach them in sets of 4. They seem to make the craft really work better, because while it's going through the atmosphere, like if there's any resistance to it, it actually can use that to help stabilize the rocket. And once it gets out of that, then you're basically home free unless something else happens. So I'd say this mission is fairly successful so far. I'm at 22 meters, or 22,000 meters. Slight difference. Still have a good amount of delta V left. You can see these two numbers, they're getting closer and closer together. I think they might actually be the same now, or just about the same. So this, the apophysis, I found if you're below the atmosphere, in any way, shape, or form, then what'll actually happen is like it'll sort of shrink back a little bit if you take off the thrust. So I'm just leaving the thrust on until at least it gets out of the atmosphere, which is at 70,000 meters. So it's going to be there very soon. Since the purpose of this mission isn't to get in a Kerbal orbit, but it's just to get into one around the sun and then an encounter with Jool, I'm not really going to change this orbit. Once it runs out of delta V, I'm just going to move to the next stage. There has to be a pause in between though, just in case. Woo! I can see a sunrise. Or is that a sunset? Oh, we're outside of the atmosphere. Hopefully the sun will show up before I have to change the stages so you can see this next portion of the craft. It's very interesting because there was this modified part which is called mini fuel tank, and I thought it would be inefficient, but it actually makes up the majority of the mission's fuel. I think I'll actually wait until we get to the sunrise to do this because I have enough time. It's basically going in the same direction up until around 10 or 11 minutes later. This song is Break Through the Silence by Martin Garrix, by the way. I wonder if the sun's in the other direction. Yep, here we go, there's the sun. Alright. Okay, so next stage activating in 3, 2, 1. That's weird. It's not supposed to do that. Very interesting. It's not supposed to do that. Let me see if I can get it to fix itself here. I can turn on the infinite RCS, which technically should be fixing it, but it's actually sort of making it worse. That's weird. I'm going to try spinning here. Oh, I think it might be working. Oh, it worked! Alright, so I have successfully gotten the craft. Number one, I've got it out of the atmosphere, which is a very, very key role in any mission. And I've also gotten it into a beautiful spin, which rarely ever happens on Kerbal Space Program, for me at least. Oh wow, you can even look at this, it looks a little spinny. Alright. So you can sort of see the main components of the mission. So far there are 2 stages left that I can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the thrust down, activate the next stage so the rocket has potential to launch. Then I'm going to use the RCS system to rebalance the rocket, hopefully, if it wants to. There we go. Looks like it's working. Alright, so now I'll get it in the correct direction, which is like this. Once that's achieved, I should technically be able to launch this even further and hopefully out of the sphere of influence. After getting out of the sphere of influence of Kerbal, I actually need to do a slight burn to get the orbit different from Kerbal, because otherwise I'll run into the planet into little encounters again and again, and the orbit's going to be mindlessly different than I wanted it to be. So for the moment, what I'm going to do is just burn forward, but I may have to stop later. So press Z, and is it working? Yes, it is working. You can watch the craft here. It is making a beautifully perfect burn. The RCS system is keeping it working here, and that's interesting. Oh, okay. This is Animals by Martin Garrix now. Alright. So I guess this is how I'm going to end this episode. We are activating the second stage, and it's on its way out of the sphere of influence. For the moment, I am Kerbal Enthusiast 11, signing off.